Hey, what's up? It's Emilio DiSpirito, and this is the Wealth Architect Podcast. I'm so excited to be here with you each and every single week. My team and I have hand-selected our guests to come on the program to talk about how to build wealth financially, mentally, physically, spiritually, right? There's so much that goes into building a lifestyle full of wealth, and we hope that this content really reaches you, not only in your brain, but in your heart, and that you could do something with this. So thank you so much for tuning in. God bless you, and we're going to have a great show. Hey, a special thank you to our sponsor, Annie Mac Home Mortgage, whose Cash to Keys product is disrupting the industry. Sick and tired of finding the perfect home, not having your offer selected? I got to tell you, it happens all the time. With Cash to Keys, Annie Mac gives sellers a cash guarantee for each of their buyers' offers. Stop bidding and hoping. Instead, bid with Annie Mac and bid with confidence. Don't just bid, but win. Annie Mac Mortgage. Do you currently own an abundance of multifamily properties? Are you tired of working with property management companies that just continue to drop the ball and disappoint you? Why don't you start your own franchise? Go ahead and contact our friends at Nexus Property Management to see how their proprietary information and systems and marketing can work for you. The success that they have had all over the country is unbelievable. Check them out, Nexus Property Management, and go ahead and let them know you heard it here on The Wealth Architect. Welcome to the Wealth Architect Podcast. I'm Emilio DiSpirito. This is season 2, episode number 15, and we've got a fantastic guest for you today. We have Alan Weiss, PhD. He's not only a book author of over 54 books, and I think more coming. We'll talk about that in a moment. But he's also the president of Summit Consulting Group, okay? So he works with businesses and focuses on everything from leadership to business development and so forth. So we're excited to have Alan today. We've got a lot of insights to share with you. Alan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Emilio. It's happy for me to be here.
You're welcome. Yeah. Happy to have you here. So first off, Alan, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? How many years have you been doing this?
I'll have to put this in the confines of your time limits here. I come from Union City, New Jersey, which is the most densely populated city in the United States. About 65,000 people in a square mile. Lower income background. My parents used to argue about how to pay the rent, which was $45 a month.
Wow.
Went to public schools. I got a great education. Serious teachers, dedicated teachers. I can name each one in my grammar school to today. Went to high school, became an exchange student, which was extraordinary. It never happened in the city. I was in a competition, and that's when I learned I knew how to be a contrarian and talk well on my feet. Went to Europe and got a whole new aspect on life. Mm-hmm. Went to Rutgers University, got a great education there. Got married when I graduated. The next best thing in my life. I have to be careful. My wife's listening. And back then, everybody got married at 22. You got out of school, you got married. And I went to work for Prudential. Realized I wasn't going to become president that year. And wound up at a training firm in Princeton, New Jersey, ran the North American, Latin American, Asian operations. I was originally sent to San Francisco, which was losing $400,000. They asked me to either make it break even or close it. Mm-hmm. I made $1 million the next year. And then I went up to Providence here, to being a president of a consulting firm in Providence.
Yeah.
And I was fired 15 months later. Because the owner and I had a deep antipathy for each other.
Really?
Yeah. And so, W. Clement Stone the late W. Clement Stone felt that he had a positive mental attitude. And so he had made $450 million. And I told him he had $450 million, and that's why he had a positive mental attitude. He had the ideology reversed. So he didn't like that, so he fired me. So I had kids in school, bad severance, went out on my own. I said, I will never let anyone fire me again. And, my wife said, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to be a consultant. And I made 2 decisions which saved my life. I realized this is a relationship business, and what I was really selling was me. And I realized that I would never, ever again bill for an hour's time or a day's time or a box of materials or a seat in a room. I was billing for value. And in fact, in the 90s, I pioneered value-based fees for the consulting profession. I now have the strongest solo consulting brand in the world.
Wow, really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. I mean, so right there, I've got so many questions for you off the bat. And I feel like so many people do, they focus on, and thank you for that, they focus on the hourly fee, or they focus on what is everybody else charging, but it's all about the value that you're bringing to the table. So I guess, how do you present yourself? How do you present your business? What do you tell your clients that you consult with on how to bring value to the table at a point where they can sell that instead of the traditional ways?
Well, when I was doing largely corporate work, Bank of America and Merck and GE and Hewlett Packard and so forth, when I would walk into an executive's office, a buyer's office,
Yeah.
he would say, "What do you do?" She would say, "What do you do?" And I would say, "I dramatically improve individual and organizational results." Mm-hmm. Because it's not what we do, it's what we create, right? You sell real estate perhaps, but what you create are great lives. And you create great environments, right? Mm-hmm. And so the only question you can ask after that, the only question you can ask, and a good lawyer in a courtroom always knows the answers, how do you do that? And I would say, well, I'll tell you what, let's not be theoretical. Why don't you tell me what concerns you right now, and I'll tell you how I'd approach it. Bang, I'm in. There's no kind of, tell me about your methodology and your approaches and where you're from, none of that kind of stuff. When I transitioned largely in the late 90s and early 2000s because of the success of $1 Million Consulting, my all-time bestseller, I have been telling individuals who sign up from all over the world, 54 countries, I think, right now.
Wow.
Who I tell, I will help you create a life that is far better than your best aspirations. And then they say, how would you do that? And I say, let's talk about your aspirations. And that's how it works. I am a reductionist. I make things as simple and easy as I can and as brief as possible.
And you know what? Some of the best politicians do that, right? Like if you look at Ronald Reagan back in the day, that's something that he always did very well. I've seen some old news coverage where he was explaining the economy and everything else, or, anybody that can break things down to the most simple form can sell it. And I believe so much easier. And I think nowadays more than ever, people want quick and simple fixes, right?
They do. They want magic bullets. So you have to pull them back from the magic bullet, but you also have to pull them back from complexity. They think if they pay, McKinsey $24 million, it's bound to be good. It isn't.
Yeah.
What you want is somebody who's in and out, doesn't add to your problem. The doctors say first do no harm. I don't believe in that. I think first make people better. Mm-hmm. Doing no harm doesn't get you anything. So I think that our job is to improve the client's condition. Mm-hmm. Long before I met you, I always wondered about realty because it was a fixed 6% commission. And I'm saying to myself, look, there are trailing spouses, there are kids getting into school, there's convenience and commute, there's the views, and there are all these wonderful both aesthetic and pragmatic things. What are you charging 6% for? You can get a lot more than that. And instead, the industry gets sued, and now everybody's trying to, not you, but everybody's trying to lower their...
Yeah.
It's the wrong strategy.
So, all right, let's talk about that right now, because this is something we can unbox here. We have a lot of realtors that listen, a lot of people that might have similar businesses to this, right? So, how would you be a realtor and charge more than, say, the status quo? Like, what are some things that you could do? How do you push that value and still get business?
One of the books I wrote here is Fearless Leadership, right? And the fact is that when you become part of the status quo, part of the herd, you are a commodity. You are confined by the herd.
True.
You're a bison, you're an elk, you're part of the herd.
Yeah.
What you need to be is a lone wolf.
Yeah.
You need to climb the hill. You need to stand out on your own. And so consequently, the way you charge more is you stop focusing on how many houses that you can look at and how many listings you'll be on and so forth and so on. And you start focusing on what's really important to the customer. So if the customer is buying, I think it's all about environments. It's about family. It's about closeness. You know better than I do. I mean, it makes a big difference if the buyers have kids or not, or if they have parents they're trying to tend to or not. It depends upon what their own objectives are. And just a brief conversation will disclose those things because people love to talk about themselves.
Sure.
I'll tell you my worst realtor story, and then I'll tell you my best if you ask me later. But the worst realtor story is we moved to San Francisco, and I was with this company in Princeton, and we're looking for a home we can afford. We would spend, I don't know, back then it was a few $100,000. It wasn't a great deal. And I said, but I must have air conditioning. I have allergies, and I must have air conditioning. So she says to me, okay, fine. And she shows me a home, and she's, showing us. I said, wait, where's the air conditioning? I don't see any vents. So it has no air conditioning. She says, but look at the view. I said, I told you, air conditioning. She said, okay, we'll go to the next house. No air conditioning. I said, still no AC. She said, yeah, but we're near schools. I said, no, we're not, because we're done. So,
fired.
She was just trying to sell a house. She wasn't trying to make me happy.
Got it. Yep. So that's the worst interaction that you've had with realtor.
Terrible.
Let's talk about the best, the complete opposite.
Well, so after a while, I'd made it. And now we're looking in Sausalito and Tiburon outside of San Francisco, fantastically wealthy
Beautiful.
area. And I said to my wife, I don't even know if we can afford this right now, but the good thing about California is it doesn't matter how you dress or the car you drive or anything, you could be wealthy. And so this realtor was wonderful, and she takes us to this palace, these winding steps on the outside to get in, this palace high up on Tiburon. And I'm saying to myself, okay, I have to get out of here and save face because I know we can't afford $5 million. And I hear dogs barking. So I had my excuse, and I said to her, I'm sorry, the house is lovely, and we would consider it, but I can't buy a house where I can hear the neighbor's dogs barking. She said, sir, those are the harbor seals.
The harbor seals? Oh, wow.
They bark.
Yeah.
So I was exposed.
Wow. Wow.
I was a poseur, I was exposed. So I never forgot that lesson.
That's so funny. I can't believe they're that loud where you can hear them.
Oh, yeah, they echo up there.
Wow, that's amazing. So, Alan, 54 books. I asked you, I said, hey, what are your favorite two? And you said, well, I think these probably would apply, to you, and these would be great. And you sent me both of these, Fearless Leader and Your Legacy is Fearless Leadership, and Your Legacy is Now. So this was great. This is an easy read, which was awesome. I was reading it on the plane to Portugal, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. I'm curious, with all of your expertise and all that you've done over the years, where do you find that most people starting and running a business fail?
Well, there's two or three, but I would say people fail when they start a business in not understanding marketing. Marketing is how people think about you when you're not around. The second thing is, if you think about the three aspects of a sale, which are discovery, that is discovering a buyer who will pay you for your particular value. That's
Sure.
discovery in my book. And then there's conversion. When you meet with that buyer, people call it sales a lot, and you convert to the prospect to a client. And then the third is execution. You deliver. People start with the delivery. They focus on the technology. They focus on their methodology. They say, look what I've created. I have this course. I have this listing. I have this software. Who the hell cares? Nobody cares. What they care is what's in it for me, what you create. So instead of ready, aim, fire, it's fire, aim, ready.
Backwards.
Yeah.
Totally backwards.
And the third thing is that they don't really appreciate the fact there are financial requirements they need to meet. They're probably not going to do very well at all for 6 months. And then maybe in a year they'll be sustaining. I have something called watertight doors, and it's survive, and then alive, and then arrive, and then thrive. And as you go through these levels, you have to slam the watertight doors behind you, because otherwise you slip back. And so you and I both know a lot of people who are wealthy and successful, except they won't pick up a check, they won't mentor someone for free, they won't share information because they still have a poverty mentality. So what we need, ironically, when I say I help people meet goals beyond their aspirations, we need an abundance mentality, not a poverty mentality.
Yeah. Scarcity is, I notice scarcity so much in so many people, especially real estate agents, right? And I don't want to make this show about just real estate, but it's something that I see firsthand. And I love what you said about how I believe you said you have to survive first, right? And you got to get through, and you got to battle through that first 6 months, the first year, sometimes 2 years, I think, in any business, and sometimes even longer, right? And that's where I see most people just kind of lose hope, lose faith. They walk away. But if you can't bet on yourself, who can you bet on?
The first sale's to yourself.
That's right.
And when people come to me and say, look, I'll give you a percentage of what I make. And, I said, look, I take credit cards, And they say, well, I don't want to use credit. If you don't believe in yourself, I'm not interested in believing in you. And the fact is that the biggest dividends, the biggest return on investment you can get is investing in yourself.
Agreed.
And so I'm not interested in the poverty mentality. And then you have to put food on the table at the outset. But after that, you have to grow beyond that. And you have to understand that the more you can help people, the more you help yourself.
That's right. The more you give, the more you get. It's just how the world works, how the universe works, and it's the right thing to do. So while we're on that topic, Alan, how much should somebody invest in professional development? Like if you were to say maybe a percentage of their total income, or do you quantify it like that, or how exactly?
You should never stop. If you budgeted money, and you met me in August, and you said to me, Alan, I'd love to work with you, but my money's all budgeted. I would say there's a difference between budget and money. They're two different things. So take the money out of that budget and give it to me, because you get a much bigger return. Our lives are all about marketing. Like I said, it's how you think about it. how people think about you when you're not around.
Yep.
Seth Godin, as we were talking about earlier, his book is behind you here.
Yeah.
A colleague of mine, he says that marketing is about the discussion, always in the discussion. Some people get up in the morning and they say, I got bills to pay. I'm not getting a call back. This person's ghosting me, and I got the trouble with the kids. And that day becomes a long, slow crawl through enemy territory.
Sure.
Some people wake up and they say, hey, another day, great opportunity. Who can I help?
That's right.
And if you think that you're giving people value, you never hesitate to call them or to write to them. If you think you're selling something and taking money, then you think you're interrupting them. So my book that's coming out in February, The 7-Figure Consultant, and if you read this, maybe 8, it says on the cover. Wiley did a great job. That book is all about the philosophy you need to have an abundance mentality.
I love that. So, all right. So there's no set budget, and you shouldn't budget your professional and personal development. What are some ways that, like, of course we could hire a consultant like you, you could do this, we could hire you, but what are some other ways that somebody might be able to do it if they're just starting out? Like, what are the best ways to learn?
Well, I write a lot of books, but I also tell people this. No one ever learned to ski by reading a book, not even one of mine.
Yeah.
So what do you have to do? You have to go out and practice.
action.
Now, if you can't afford a coach, right? Let's take skiing. You start on a bunny hill,
Yeah.
and you fall, you make mistakes, and you learn. Let's say you want to be a speaker as part of what you're doing, or you have to speak because of your profession. All right, you go to Toastmasters, and you learn how to do it. You make a speech for free at your church, or you make a speech for free at the Rotary, or whatever it happens to be, and you get in there and do it. That's how we all learned to ride a bike. We fell, and then we rode a bike because we were tired of falling and it hurt.
That's right.
And so everybody, look, entertainers, business people, educators, people in academia, everybody who's excellent have all had coaches. Sinatra had a coach. Sandy Koufax had a coach. For those of you who don't know Koufax, you need to look him up. All the great people had coaches, and they still do. And so eventually you need one. But your question's an important one. And so before you can afford a coach or perceive you can, you got to get out there and try it. It will reinforce what you can do well, because we grow well by building on strength. We do not grow by correcting weaknesses. So when I was fired, 250,000 independent consultants in the U.S., I said, okay, what are my uniquenesses? I can write and I can speak. I hate networking because they really are ugly babies. You know what I'm saying? I don't like other kinds of marketing, but I can write and I can speak. So I wrote and I spoke, and I got noticed. And what am I doing today? I'm on top of the hill, and I'm still writing and speaking.
I love that. How many years then?
In what I'm doing?
Consulting, yeah.
Well, I went out on my own in 85.
85.
Yes, and for 15 years before that, I was in the profession. I went on my own in 85, and I never looked back. My first big client was Merck Pharmaceuticals. I worked with them for 12 years because I got a referral.
Yep.
And I was saying things, and my original brand, my brand today is my name, my original brand was the Contrarian. I decided I would take on, in the late 80s, the quality game. There were black belts in quality, and there were quality lightning and quality this and quality that. And so I wrote an article for a magazine in Boston. And I said, the fallacy of quality control circles. So he publishes this. And if you picture Frankenstein, the villagers with pitchforks and torches marched up the hill, sent him 1,000 threatening letters, and wanted me killed. So I called him to apologize. I was 30 years old, whatever I was, and I said, I'm really sorry this happened to you. He said, kid, I'll give you $50 a month if you write a column for me. I said, they hated it. And then he said to me, they read it. And that's when I learned the power.
Wow, yeah.
And for 6 years, 72 months, for $50 a month, I wrote him an article. And it said, leadership doesn't start at the top, or the bottom starts in the middle. Anything I could defend, I wrote about, and everybody started calling me.
Wow. That's amazing. And it's so true. It's like, if you blend in with the noise, if you're in with all the other noise, you're going to blend in. But it's all about standing out. And I think right now, today, in 2025, going into 2026, people want truth. They don't want things that are filtered. They don't want the BS. They can see through it, and everyone else is doing that. They want God's honest truth.
Well, and they want, you're right, and they want trust and authenticity.
Always, yeah.
And in your profession, and again, I'm not an expert in real estate, but I have observed this. While it is economically feasible and technologically feasible to give people virtual walkthroughs, you can't beat a human being with you saying, take a look at this.
Agreed.
I want to show you something surprising. So you have to watch what you rely on.
And people love stories. and they love when they can emotionally connect with things. It's huge. It's everything. It's why we stage homes. It's why we get them prepared for sale, right? Alan, you said something. You said you hate networking, which so surprises me because of ugly babies. What did you mean by that?
Well, every time a politician wants to run for office or somebody wants to get something, they hold up a baby and they say, oh, you got a beautiful baby. There are ugly babies.
Yeah.
You know, my wife and I were in Maine, walking this long walk to the beach. And in the 100 yards away, we see a woman carrying a baby. And I said, that's an ugly baby. My wife says, Alan, there are no ugly babies. I said, that is an ugly baby. She said, don't you say a thing. I said, okay. She said, you tell that woman she has a lovely baby. I said, okay. As we get closer, about 20 yards away, we realize the woman is actually carrying a monkey.
Wow.
And my wife starts to sweat bullets and says, Alan, and we get to her, and I said, madam, you have a lovely baby.
Maria wanted to probably smack you.
Married 57 years through some miracle.
Oh, yeah. Wow. God bless you. That's amazing. 57 years, you
57 years.
Wow.
Yeah, we just had a picture taken with the bishop. Over X amount of years, you get your picture taken with the bishop.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's a hard feat.
We've been through several bishops.
Yeah, I bet. So 57 years, I want to get back to this networking thing in a second, but I do want to shine some light on that because that's really hard too. And as somebody who is, writing 54 books, who is consulting full time, you have a beautiful family. I've got to meet your wife. She's amazing. And I saw how you guys interact with each other and you're playful with one another. Okay. So what advice can you give a young guy like me, or actually I'm not that young anymore. I like to pretend I am 40,
to me, you are.
40 something. But like, what advice can you give guys out there and women out there that are in a marriage or want to get married? How do they keep it together in a society that's all about tearing it apart?
Well, we were asked that question a lot. So I'll give you my reaction and my wife's reaction. My reaction is you have to have joint interests, but also personal separate interests. So I enjoy doing some things, watching science fiction films or playing around with model trains. My wife's not interested. And that's fine. My wife enjoys doing things. She loves some soap operas, and she's an expert knitter, and she joins all these nonprofits and serves on the boards, and I'm not interested. And then you have to have interests where you overlap.
Yeah.
And so we both love fine dining. We love to travel. We love to explore. And so that's the secret that I have. My wife says that there are great times which you'll love, and there are rocky times which you'll get over. And everything in between is okay. You have to get used to the okay. And so I signed my holiday notes to her. Love, Alan the okay.
Oh, that's great. Alan the Great, Alan the okay. That's amazing. And I find that when that happens, right, in the okay, people get complacent. Oh, you're not making me happy anymore. Oh, this or that. And it's such a selfish look at something like marriage, which is the most important partnership, I think. And it's a part where our society is failing right now.
Well, there are two aspects that ruin entrepreneurs. One is relationships, and the other is financial, and obviously they're intertwined. And so right from the beginning, I said to my wife, "Here's our financial situation." Now we have more pleasant things we can talk about. But that was always the case, and we always tried to keep our relationship positive and steady. We tried never to go to bed at night angry, ever.
Yeah.
People have to realize that if you have a partner who's telling you, look, you're not going to make it in this business. And I've had to coach people through that. That's terrible. And if you have people calling from collection agencies, it's terrible. So I tell people, look,
I've had that too.
If you have a partner, make sure your partner is happy with you going to do this. And secondly, have at least 6 months of your expenses in the bank, preferably 12.
When you get married?
No,
Or
when you go out on your own.
When you go out on your own for business?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Now, so if you don't have that, but you have a set of kahunas and you got motivation, you should still go for it, I think.
Most of those people fail.
Right? Really? Yeah.
Yeah, because you remember, I forget who it was, Ava Gardner or somebody was discovered at a luncheon in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And so everybody says, well, that's the way to go. Marshall Goldsmith and I wrote a book together called Life Storming. And what we agreed on 99% of what we were writing about, which was amazing. And what we both said was, they talk about the exception, the one person in 10,000.
Yeah.
Nobody talks about
True.
the 9,999 others who don't make it. And so if you don't have proper preparation, only the gifted few can wing it. That's one of my, they call them Alanisms. And if you're not among the gifted few, don't try it. Have some basis, some support that you can rely upon.
What is the best way to find out what your gifts are as an individual, as an entrepreneur?
Well, one thing you can do is ask others what they think, trusted others, and never accept feedback from people you don't ask. Unsolicited feedback is always for the sender. So never listen to it. I think you could have changed this. I didn't ask you. Would you like some feedback? No. You know how I would have done this? I don't care.
Yeah.
You know, you do it that way. I don't.
Yeah.
But solicited feedback from people you trust and admire, that's always worth it. And say, what do you think I'm really good at? And they'll tell you things sometimes you don't even realize because you just do them naturally. So the point here is conscious competency is how you learn. But unconscious competency is what you're doing, good or bad, that you're not really aware of, and you need someone else to reflect on it. And so that's how you use people like that. And like I say, when you find what your strengths are, we all have strengths, everybody, you just beat the hell out of them. You get that horse over the finish line.
Yeah.
Because, you know, for me, writing a book is nothing at all. Boom. But I would never tell someone else I'm coaching, well, what you need to do is write 54 books.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I would say, you know, are you interested in writing at all? Well, yeah, I am. Okay, let's try this. So you put it on LinkedIn. 1 paragraph, 5 sentences, here's what it looks like. So you always have to make sure that you're dealing with the other person's strengths. Even if they're in the same general area, they're likely to be somewhat different.
What about weaknesses? You know, you hear different things. Don't focus on your weaknesses, or some people say focus on your weaknesses. Try to build them up. What are your thoughts? Should you just go all in on your strengths and forget about the weaknesses? Hire out for those, delegate those, or do you work on those?
No, you don't work on those. Here's the coaching formula. If you can't do something on your own in 30 days, you're not going to do it. And so if you got a coach, me, Marshall Goldsmith, you know, if Marshall says he's the best executive coach in the world, and he says I'm the best entrepreneurial coach in the world. You get a coach, and if with the coach you can't do it in 90 days, find somebody else to do it. You know, find somebody else to make the speech for you. Find somebody else to build the garage. Because you're just wasting time. And anybody who agrees to coach you longer than 90 days, I'm not talking about advising here, but coaching, is just creating codependency.
Got it. So what is coaching with you, like your platform? What does that look like?
Depends who it is. So for entrepreneurs, I have several different approaches, but they all rely on what the individual needs. So people tend to work with me for 6 or 7 months or a year or permanently. I mean, I have people I've worked with for 20 years. I have second generation people. I've drawn the line at third generation. And they participate with me one-on-one or in small groups or whatever it is. They have unrestricted access, and I'm advising them. See, when you coach people on how to improve a behavior.
Sure.
When you're advising people, you're advising them on how to apply those behaviors in a given circumstance. That's somewhat different. So advising can go on forever.
It's much more hands-on.
Yeah, and it's much more immediate.
You're like a board member.
Yeah. So a therapist will tell you, a good therapist, look, I'm not going to become part of your family. And I tell people I'm not going to be part of your business. But call me if you're in a certain circumstance and I'll help you. So that's what it looks like. And for example, I've coached some people whose names you would know in a minute in large companies.
Yeah.
And in one case, something that never got to light that was extraordinarily, almost magical. You know, you have to bring the pragmatics to them. And some people are blind to their own weaknesses. And I am not suggesting you improve the weakness, but you have to make them aware of it so they can take a different route.
Yeah.
You know? So coaching's different for everyone, but I only take on clients from whom I can learn and with whom I will enjoy working.
That's great. So you're still actively taking on more and more clients.
Oh, yeah. Another book I wrote is called 3score and More. The whole concept of retirement is equal to believing that a stegosaurus is in the zoo.
Yeah.
They don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Retirement doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. Agreed. What do you think happens when people retire?
They often sit in a room waiting to die. You know, I mean, how many gardens can you tend? And the fact is the country needs you. I mean, we have a declining population.
Sure.
And we need the wisdom of people. Nobody ever talked about a 25-year-old and said, what a wise person, you know, unless they're in the mob. It's a wise guy.
Yeah, right.
But, you know, the accumulated wisdom, the historical memory that you develop.
Yep.
You know, people say, oh, my God, you know, COVID. Oh, my God, you know, Ukraine. I lived through the Cuban Missile Crisis, which is as close as we've ever come to total annihilation.
Scary.
Let me tell you.
Very scary.
People crying in the halls of the school and parents crying. So with that kind of perspective, it's pretty hard to get me really overexcited today.
Sure.
You know? Yeah. You know, I lived through financial crisis. You know, I've seen what happens. So You need that kind of perspective.
I agree. I think that retirement is a waste because I think if somebody is retired, right, they're not useless. And
No.
they're going to feel useless and they're going to feel complacent. And unfortunately, I see it happen all of the time. Give back, do something, volunteer your time or take on a mentor, a younger person.
You've said it exactly right. You don't have to keep working where you are, and you can accept your pension and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But you should be contributing back to society. My feeling is nobody has the right to consume wealth or consume happiness without creating them.
Mm-hmm.
That's the quid pro quo.
I like that. So if you create, you got to give back and you got to help other people create.
You have to equalize the system.
You got to help the next person in line. That's a country song. I just heard that the other night. But I love that. Oh, always be humble and kind. That song, help the next in line.
My favorite country song is "Guilty Feet Have Got No Rhythm." I don't know why, but it just strikes me.
Yeah, it's great. So where do you think? Let's talk about where we can improve, okay, as a country, as professionals, as business owners. Like, what do you think is something we need to improve on in 2026?
Education.
Education, I agree. But education from children, childhood up, or higher education? What?
Here's the problem. We are using an educational system that's a couple of hundred years old.
Well, sure.
We warehouse kids by chronology, not achievement, by chronology. We don't pay teachers enough money to be really excellent and to get the best. And we don't have sufficient diligence in monitoring teachers to get rid of the worst, which you do in any business, right?
True.
And so the teachers' unions have an inordinate amount because of the political contributions they make to the school systems. The school boards, the boards of education, largely have people who are looking to step up to city council or something else, or just want to be in the spotlight. I mean, you and I both know what's going on here in Rhode Island with some of these horrible situations. It's a mess. And then there's primary school. In secondary school, the problem is this: not everybody should be going to college. Some schools have really wonderful programs where they teach juniors and seniors to use, equipment to. I'm just thinking, I went to shop when I was in school. They called it shop. My wife went to home ec. Yeah, and so they teach them to weld. And when these kids get out as seniors, they get $70,000 a year jobs. I went through college. I mean, I have 4 degrees. I went through college with a lot of people who learned nothing, who shouldn't have been there. They went there ticket stamped. So that's a problem with secondary education. And then with higher education, we still have some of the best schools in the world, but they become ideological sinkholes. The whole concept of tenure for any teacher, for any professor, to me is alien, because it says you can screw up as much as you want. Don't worry about it. So, other than that, education's great.
Other than that, yeah. It's like, I always felt as a kid in school, I always felt they were trying to put me in a box. And I used to tell them the only time I'll be in a box is when I'm dead. And I was like the worst student in the class, right? Like, as I'm sure probably maybe you were, or not you. You were
my son.
You were a scholar, yeah.
Oh yeah, because I found out if you were teacher's pet, man, you got all the advantages. This is why I learned early influence. Oh yeah, you answered the questions, you did well in the test. They didn't check the rest of the stuff, even if you got it wrong. Oh yeah. Well, let me ask you something though.
Yeah.
You must have liked something about school. What did you like?
I liked the socialism. I liked not socialism, socializing.
Socializing, yeah.
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 I like socializing, sure.
So that's an important part of education.
Yeah.
One of the problems is with some of these very elite private schools, right? Or schools that take in economically disadvantaged kids, which they should, they don't help with the socialization. And so you get into a college and suddenly you're saying, holy smoke, what do I? So you have to look at the whole person.
I looked at it all as a sale, though. Like, I always was able to talk my teachers into giving me a higher grade so I could pass on to the next class.
That's what I was doing by doing well.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So there's so much you can learn in any given area. And I looked at all of that as a sale. Well, that's fantastic. Alan, this has been a lot of fun. I feel like I could ask you questions for another hour or two, right? And I can't wait to finish these books. I appreciate you sending them to me. Congratulations on all of your success. And if our listeners, if they would like to reach out to you, how do they get you?
AlanWeiss.com, AlanWeiss.com. There are free resources, text, audio, video, free newsletters, and so forth.
Awesome. And when does your next book launch?
In February of next year, 26, will be the 7-Figure Consultant. And then in March of 26 will be the 6th edition of Getting Started in Consulting.
Wow, that's amazing. Awesome. Alan Weiss, consultant. Thank you so much, Alan, for coming in.
Thanks for having me here. I
It's been
appreciate it.
awesome. Thank you so much. When you're buying real estate, you need somebody that understands the ins and outs of the legal ends. It's so important to have the right attorney working for you. You also need a bulldog. Let me tell you something. The first time I sat in a conference room with this lady, Melissa Delana of Delana Law, I immediately knew she owned the room. You need an attorney that owns the room, that can solve problems and make things happen when everybody else can't. You want to hire Delana Law in Massachusetts, Connecticut, or Rhode Island. Delana Law delivers every single time. They're going to help you out with all of your real estate needs. It's delanalaw.com. You got to check them out. Hey, welcome back to the Wealth Architect podcast. I'm Emilio DiSpirito, and we've got a guest with us today, one of the top selling real estate advisors all across the globe, actually. His name is Paul Benson, and he's not only the licensed partner at Engel and Volkers, but also a private office advisor and also connected to us through the Realm collaboration that we have here, so Realm Global. So, Paul, welcome to the Wealth Architect.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back. Great to see you.
Great to see you too, Paul. Thanks for taking the time with us today. So, Paul, you are no stranger to real estate, obviously running 57 Engel and Volker shops? How many shops do you run?
I think it's 52.
All right, 52. I apologize. 50, it'll be 57 before you know it. So 52 shops. But I wanted to have you on the program today specifically to talk about the unique things in regards to two marketplaces, or Park City and Salt Lake City, right? Those real estate markets. I want to talk about who's moving there and where they're moving from.
Both different markets. So I'm going to break them apart. I would say recently we were all in Portugal together, and I saw the board pop up of global moves. Where are people moving globally and why, and what are wealth managers recommending? And I saw the only two places in North America mentioned were Arizona and Utah. And it's something that I've been feeling pretty regularly. We have a family office division, and I occasionally get invited to these family office events and luncheons in Seattle or San Francisco, and you get all these heads of offices together with names that you know from across the world, and the vibe in the room is Utah, and for different reasons. But over the past year or two, I realized that vibe isn't because it's me in the room. They don't have a clue who the hell I am. So this is not a, hey, you live in Utah, so we're going to talk about Utah conversation. It is the conversation that's happening. And it's happening because Utah is a tax-friendly state. It's a politically friendly state. It's we don't have a lot of the violent crimes that you're seeing in some of the cities, that whether it's happening or not, it's certainly sensationalized. We have a stable economy. We have an incredible outdoors, and we have an incredible airport. And for example, Park City, one of the things we tell people is we are one traffic light from Salt Lake City International Airport. So here you are in a mountain town where you can ski, the largest ski resort now in North America, and the third largest. We have the largest and the third largest in the same town. And
wow.
We have all these golf courses, but one traffic light connects us within 35 minutes to a true brand new global international airport, which makes it pretty attractive. So the people moving to Salt Lake City right now, what I'm seeing primarily is tech. A lot of tech. A lot of people leaving Silicon Valley, Austin, Texas, Seattle, Minnesota areas, where we're seeing people coming down, as we call it, Silicon Slopes. And they like the quality of life. They like the outdoor, the skiing, the biking, the hiking, the 330 days a year of sun. But they also like the vibrancy of a city that is just really starting to grow up. Downtown Salt Lake City has a tremendous amount of new restaurants with the right vibe, with the right chefs, trying to put themselves on the map, but still at price points that make it friendly, and new hotels going up. And here it is in this clean city that has done a really good job keeping things like traffic from being a conversation. We don't have traffic problems in Salt Lake City, and you can be to and from the airport in less than 10 minutes. So Salt Lake City, we're seeing that vibe of tech. But Park City, we are seeing a very, very, very different vibe, and it's very different than what we've ever seen. I moved to Park City 21 years ago, and
Mm-hmm.
we used to have this tagline: "You come for the winter, you stay for the summer." And it meant everyone got exposed for either the Winter Olympics or to ski, or Sundance Film Festival
Mm-hmm.
all winter. They'd come in, they'd ski, they'd enjoy the town. They'd come back in the summer and say, "Wow, I could live here." And it would usually start with some kind of a rental condo that was going to be put in rental pool and create income. And then next time around, it was a rental townhome or home. And then sooner or later, they spend enough time here, they would want something more permanent, or at least a second home that they would use equally. What's happening lately is these are fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth homes. The wealth gap has grown tremendously in the last 5 years. We used to sell a home in Park City over 10 million, 12 million, once or twice a year, maybe 3 times a year in this entire town. And, now that's, it got to a point last year where I remember clients coming in and saying, I want to spend 12 million in Promontory, which is a golf course in the ski community. And there was nothing available. Like they were snatching and being snatched up off the market as fast as they list. And
Wow.
and now you start seeing golf course homes. We have one this year sell for 44 million. And I point that out because golf course homes can be replaced. You just build another golf course. It's not like ski and ski out properties. People talk about beachfront.
Sure.
There's 11 times more beachfront in America than there is ski and ski out. So ski and ski out has been kind of our bread and butter all these years. And yeah, we had a record $65 million sale last year. But this year, even seeing these golf course properties hit 30 and 40 and 45 million, this is a different level of wealth. And when you speak to the owners or the money managers of these clients, all we're hearing is Park City is a safe place to park money because we know there's going to be a preservation of wealth. There's a certain level. It's not about investment. It's about, I want to be in a place with like-minded people where my money is safe. And based on the taxes and based on the outdoor lifestyle and based on the amount of these homes being built, there's a safety net that has become the primary driver in Park City.
That's interesting, Paul. So when you say based on the taxes, is it the property taxes you're talking about or income taxes? Because I don't think it's income taxes because you're talking about how this is 7 or 8 homes for these buyers. What taxes
I probably shouldn't
exactly
comment,
make
but
it a tax haven?
I'd say income taxes is definitely a factor. No
Okay.
matter how many homes you have to call something home. Nevada,
So primary.
Wyoming, Florida, Park City. So I did ask this question in a recent family office event because when you're in a room with so many a lot of global people managing wealth at the highest level, and so why not Florida?
Sure.
Why Park City versus Florida, for example? The insurance. So when you start factoring in, the property, it really, the answer is it's all of it. So when you factor up the possibility of having low income tax by calling this primary residence, because one of them has to be primary, right? And then the low property taxes, a $10 million home, our property taxes are, what is that? A $10 million home, you're going to pay $50,000 a year in property taxes.
That's pretty inexpensive for that. Yeah.
Or a $5 million home, you're going to pay was rave about $17,000 a year in Park City for property taxes.
We pay that for an $800,000 home here in Rhode Island.
My parents live in Vermont in a home that's well under $1 million, and their property taxes are higher than that. But yeah, I get it. So when you've packaged all up, there's a responsibility level for a money manager to say, this is a responsible place to park your money.
And you see the trajectory of that continuing.
We do. I expected the pandemic run up in both Salt Lake City and Park City to kind of hit a wall by now. And I still remember there's one of those Nextdoor apps. And I remember when people first moved into Park City for a few months. I'm not picking on LA at all. You'd see these things like, hey, there's a hole in my backyard. I think an animal lives there. Who can make that go away? We live in the great outdoors and there's a lot of wildlife and there's a lot of animals, but you know what? Those clients did not leave. They stayed.
Yeah.
And now we see our school system having to triple the size.
Wow.
That's the very basic indicator of what's happening in your town, right? When you
Hmm.
have a small town that can't really grow because the land is taken, so now the only land available is when you have to tear something down and rebuild it. That's your land.
Sure.
So
Sure.
when you see a school tripling in size, it tells you just how many more people are spending considerably more time in your town. When you do see infrastructure having to change and the police force having to add, an employee workforce housing becomes a topic of every conversation to make sure that there's
Sure.
someplace affordable that can service all of this. And uh, so we haven't seen the shift. If anything, the momentum has grown over the last couple of years when
Hmm.
a lot of other areas did start seeing the shift after the pandemic, where you read about the run up that was going to be the rundown. Salt Lake has not run down. We still see multiple offers on the right properties. Park City is not run down. We're still seeing record prices.
Wow. And so with all of that growth of like the city services and the schools, because it was more or less a seasonal or a vacation market, now is a bedroom community in Park City. What about, won't that have an impact on taxes?
Yes and no. It's kind of, Park City is in a unique situation where there's just very few towns in in the country where you have the amount of multi-million dollar real estate in one managed area by one
Got it.
county and municipality. And
Hmm.
when you look at a lot of areas like, let's say, New York City, or yeah, obviously there's more $1 million plus properties in a large city, but there's a lot more
Hmm.
need. We have a very
Sure.
small town that has extremely high price points, but unlike markets like Aspen or Telluride, we have still a lot of transactional real estate. There's a lot more actual single family homes in our town than people realize. If you look at Aspen, Telluride, Vail combined, we have more single family homes just in our very village center than those three ski resorts combined. And then we have the
Wow.
kind of the outskirt areas that are still considered Park City, the golf course communities, which each and every one of those sells more single family resident homes a year than any of those communities. So, we have a lot of transactions at a very high price point. So the budget is in surplus, and we're in towns where they still are going out spending 20, 30, even $50 million on open space land to preserve what we have versus worrying
Hmm.
about the budget. It's a very
Wow.
attractive thing for wealth managers because it makes them feel that there's a responsibility on the deficit.
It's a whole different conversation than out east over here in Rhode Island or even Boston. I mean, man, wow. It's nice to hear that though. So, how far away is Park City from Salt Lake City?
It will almost never take more or less than 34 to 36 minutes door to door from an airport.
Wow.
Like, I leave my house in Promontory, I go through the one traffic
Okay.
light, and I park in the garage at Salt Lake City Airport in 34 to 36 minutes.
Wow. You get on your private jet.
No, no, no. I will say in a big snowstorm, that number is going to go way up.
That's great. And then Paul, what is the population in Park City and then Salt Lake City? What do those populations look like?
Yeah, the greater Salt Lake area, which includes Park City and in communities like Provo, Orem, Utah County, which is south of Salt Lake, where there's a lot of tech growth. Companies like Adobe started there, and eBay and Amazon have big presence there now. But that general population is just under 2 million. The Salt
Wow.
Lake City area itself is just over 500,000, and the Park City area, downtown Park City, known as Old Town and Deer Valley, is under 3,000 people, but the Park City area is about 30,000.
Wow. Okay. Overall, that's actually bigger than what I thought. And then lastly, right? Was it Salt Lake that has one traffic light, or was it Park City that has the one traffic light between that and the airport?
That one traffic light is in Park City that you have to go through to get to Salt Lake City.
How are they keeping that traffic down? I mean, that's amazing. Are your roads like, 5 lanes, or what's the secret there? Can you share that with us in the Northeast? Like,
They've done an incredible job. I won't pretend we don't have traffic issues now with the increased population during ski season. When the ski resorts let out somewhere around 3
Yeah.
o'clock every day, to going down that stretch to get back on the freeway to go down to Salt Lake, there is definitely, if you're coming from one of the hotels and the ski resorts, you're definitely going to see some bumper to bumper until you get to that traffic light. But if you're out
Got it.
in the golf communities, you don't experience that whatsoever. But these are things that in a small town they do become problems because there's only one way in or out. There's only so much you can do because of the mountains, so you are restricted to that, which is why we restrict the housing and build around. But I think our world has changed. It's Amelia. We're in this place where every day, if we thought it would change after pandemic, and there's all these pushes, go back to the office, be in the office. Absolutely, there's a lot of that, but there's an equal amount of people coming out of school today that say, I can be my own business and I can do it from my iPhone and I can do it in a beautiful place. And I'm comfortable with travel. I'm comfortable getting on a plane every day. And we see all these numbers of people flying every day and living and working remotely and being successful running companies at very young ages. So I think these desired areas where people get to choose where they live, Park City is certainly one of those places. Salt Lake City, frankly, is a place people choose. They choose the skiing, they choose the biking, the hiking, they choose the outdoor life. Places where people choose to live, I think is something we should be watching more of because that's how the migration is going to continue, I believe.
That's great. Awesome. Paul Benson of Engel and Volker's Salt Lake City and Engel and Volker's Park City of the overall Engel and Volker's Gestalt Group, and one of our members here at Realm Global. Paul, thank you so much for jumping on with us. If you are interested in anything Salt Lake City or Park City, feel free to reach out to Paul. He's easy to get a hold of. You can find him on Instagram. Is it at Paul Benson?
Yeah, at Paul Benson and at Paul Benson EV, and I do want to say thank you, Realm, for connecting us again. Realm has been an incredible resource for me as well.
Amazing. Yeah. And by the way, if you don't know Realm Global, Realm has over 600 of the top 1% of real estate agents and advisors across the globe in 18 different countries. We get together, we network, we exchange information, and refer business back and forth in a major way. So it's a fantastic collaborative, and I'm proud to be a part of it as well. Paul, thanks so much. And we'll see you at the next event. Another episode of the Wealth Architect podcast in the books. We appreciate you being here with us. We appreciate and love the time that we spent with Alan Weiss, book author, consultant, and Paul Benson, one of the top real estate advisors around the globe. You gotta watch this guy on social media. Definitely follow both of them. Subscribe to their channels. They do some amazing things. Awesome stuff. Thank you so much. God bless you. We'll see you back here on the next Wealth Architect podcast next week.